So it's the first time in 25 years we don't have a communist in the parliament. So that was the win of the revolution.
One of those small steps.
Small step.
In 25 years.
Disguised communists?
No. Cover. Actually, they are all promising people money. So they are voting for some very laws which could be called communistic, but they don't have it in their agenda or something like this.
There was this joke in Romania. What's the difference between the situation before 1989 and after? Saying that, well, before there was one communist party, now there are more.
Well, that's a problem of the post-Soviet states. I mean, like we have this issue right now with the medical reform. You have less than $100 per person per year. So basically, it's whether you tell the people we cannot afford it because we're not a rich country like, I don't know, Canada or France, or Austria, and you people have to pay, or whether you keep saying it's in the constitution that it has to be free of charge, but you have to bribe every doctor you go to. So everybody is used to everything being free, everything being socialistic and stuff. And a lot of parties are playing on it. Especially in Ukraine, it's a problem that a lot of young people are moving out. So the age of population is growing older. And there are a lot of old people who actually used to love Communist Party and think it was a great time for them. And these people are still voting.
Who's your prime minister now, Mr. Yatsenyuk?
Yes, Mr. Yatsenyuk. Yes, still. You believe that? We hoped for the...
Is he a communist?
No, he's not a communist. He's calling himself a reformator, a new generation, but he's been in politics since 2003, so for 12 years already. You can hardly call him a new politician. And he's been in politics with any regime. It's whether he was in opposition or in the ruling party. And there are a lot of issues with Yatsenyuk at the moment, especially with some of his ministers. Because, for example, there is one very rich member of the parliament who is the right hand of Yatsenyuk, Martenenko. And actually, the police in Switzerland...
In Czech Republic.
And in Czech Republic started a criminal investigation on him for bribing people back there. And what Yatsenyuk said, oh, it's all pro-Russian propaganda. It's not true. Even though all the media in Ukraine reported that there are a lot of reports in EU media about these investigations, he keeps saying that's because he's a good guy and the Russia wants to go over him.
Can I mention a good idea, by the way? Years ago, I saw a website made by a Russian NGO, which was called mafia.ru. Mm-hmm. They listed all the corrupt people in the government, parliament, whatever. It lasted for less than 3 months. It was deleted from the server, public server. Also, they deleted from the Wayback Machine, the Google's archive. So you can imagine how powerful.
Well, we had actually the same problem back when it was the Maidan times. We started to think what we could do as an organization to help the revolution. So we did the website called yanukovych.info, and we collected information about the corrupt assets, and we're trying to show the proofs that these assets were corrupt, to show it to the EU so they can freeze the assets of these politicians. And first it was okay, but one day we received a letter from the server company saying just, we're paying you back, please take back your website. So what happened, they couldn't put down the server, so they put down the whole company. And I couldn't understand why, and I started looking up for the EU media. And it was because it was shown on one of the TV channels in France. So they realized it went out from Ukraine to the EU and started going after it. And about this mafia.com, we have one of the good projects in our organization. It's called Ukrav, which is stolen in Ukraine. So we collect information. We actually monitor public procurement find out who signed the documents, and put up all the information with all the documents on this website. So if
Which server do you keep it?
Oh, we keep it somewhere. We have actually 2 servers, so you can change it, and
hope
it's
it's
abroad.
outside
Oh,
the
it's abroad. It's like States and Holland, I think. So what we show, we also show the names of these officials, and if we go to the courts and tell the prosecutor's office, appealing to them to open a criminal investigation. If they deny, we put the name of the prosecutor who didn't want to do it. So we have the database. It's around 300 officials already.
Right.
Why we started doing it? Because our politicians like to say, and our state officials like to say, oh, that's a political decision, blah, blah, blah. If you have all the proofs, come on, it's not a political decision anymore. And we have some ministers there as well. And we had some issues, people calling us and saying, could you please put down the name from our website? We're like, nope, sorry.
How can you get the documents, access to
We work closely with the MPs, so sometimes we write ourselves. Like we take a journalist investigation and put it down into legal language and send the appeal to the prosecutor's office. So they are actually obliged to open a case on it, to open a criminal case.
How do you get the public procurement documents?
It's online.
Oh, okay.
You can go and see, for example, that the it is transparent. You can go and see that somebody paid 4 times more, or for example, that the documentation was done. So the specifics of the documentation were done, so only a few companies could apply, or that sometimes the companies. Huh? Well,
It's not all that bad.
Well, within the last year and a half, we made them разорвать договора. We terminated agreements for almost 3 billion hryvnias. Yeah, I always make fun when we need to fundraise money. I'm like, we have to show the picture of our 2 lawyers, or like, I terminated 1.5 billion hryvnias to this and brought them back to the state budget, so people could see who are these people doing that. But the other thing is this database that we can always use. So if we have somebody saying it's a political decision, we can always show it's not.
But you also get a chance to monitor the implementation of the contract, because in our case, it's very transparent until you sign the contract and you know who you allocated the procurement. But then you don't know exactly how the implementation goes. If you do additional contracts,
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
So it's hard to follow after those signed contracts.
We have cases like that, but when we start the case, we follow up with it. We have cases
But
when
you also find the information online on how
we
they are
usually
implementing the
we
contract, because
usually
this one is
put it up
ahead
onto
of
the
Romania.
journalists. We have a lot of journalists, and especially local journalists, who collaborate, and they come back with this information. And they take it as their own case, and they follow up with it. So basically that helps a lot, because we have 12 people and 3 people on that project, 2 lawyers and me. So basically there is no way we can follow up all these cases. We have like 500 something cases at the moment running. So it's impossible. So that's why we started working with the journalists, and we take journalist investigations, because in this case the journalist is interested because he or she understands that it is important, we can make it to the end.
If it's a road in Ukraine, the black hole is
like you get
infrastructure.
During the half implementation of the
You
project,
see that this road should be like reconstructed for 1 billion euros, and you see that there is still no road there. It's common in Ukraine.
But what helps actually, when the case is on our website, and when we actually make it to where the contract is eliminated, it's much, we usually then monitor this procurement when they are doing it, like starting from the beginning, and usually they are trying to make it all perfect.
Okay, but there isn't an obligation by default that the authority publish online, hey, we achieved the first milestone, hey, we're going
No,
to...
there is no obligation like that,
Okay.
no, unfortunately,
Because in other
no.
countries there is also an obligation to be transparent in terms of the implementation of the
That's
contract.
actually a good idea.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that also means that freedom of the media is amazing in Ukraine. If so many journalists took the courage to
Look at the average salary and then you'll see.
Well,
that
we
maybe
have
they're not
a
very
lot of
linked.
media.
Yeah.
I mean, we have around like 13 national TV channels. I'm not talking about the local channels. And the good thing about us being this oligarch country is it's all controlled by oligarch, and it's always a game. When I see it, there is like one oligarch who controls one of the top TV channels, and we have 2 cases on him. So I will never call this journalist from this TV channel. I will go to the other one. So you always have to play, you know.
What I noticed is that neither of you has a very clear concept of what corruption is. You're talking about a broader definition of corruption, including abuse of power. You're talking about
Stealing.
bribing in the
Stealing.
health care, which, by the way, it's kind of a different.
I was giving
thing.
examples.
But I wonder if you do have a simple concept of corruption being the collusion between government or political position, public office, and business. Because if you do have something at the national level, you can build an institution like the one across the street and unleash it after the suspect every single time you are encountering this kind of behavior. This is a simple question, a simple method of institution, of clear laws and everything. Do you have something like that? Because, as you said, it's public knowledge everything. No, that in Eastern Europe, actually we cannot do business without the political go-ahead.
Yeah.
So if you do have this kind of information, you would be able to channel your efforts toward finding who is responsible and prosecute them. Is there any sort of I don't know, public knowledge, public awareness of the importance of the fight against corruption? Because in this country, we are talking about, after the invasion of Ukraine, of anti-corruption being a strategic element of this country. So it is not a question of legal, not a legal matter, it's a question of strategic survival of the country. Both here and in the Balkans and even in Poland and so on. So I want to know if the fight against corruption is part of a strategic thing in any other country.
I can say about
And the second question, because if it is, I didn't heard any of you talking about the involvement of the Russian oligarch and the Russian power in the corruption in either of the countries.
First of all, the corruption is a question of national security of Ukraine. It's written in the law on national security or agenda. I don't know how it's called now because it was changed a few months ago. Or it will be changed, but they say it's there. So so combating corruption is a priority for national security of Ukraine. As for Russian oligarchs, they have business in Ukraine. It's energy business. They have a lot of
All business,
banking business. Actually, there was like they tried to put our banking system down.
But can trace down to the Russian oligarchs any of
Yeah.
these businesses?
You don't
Yeah.
even have to track it. It's obvious.
It could be tracked.
It's owned.
Energy companies could be tracked, they are district energy companies for big districts, for
Monopolies.
they are there is there is oligopoly on there, so there are only few players on the market which are making this market, and and they dictate the state because it's electricity companies mostly. So
So basically, the economic independence is a joke.
In terms
If
of
you control the energy system.
and no, not all this, because there are Ukrainian oligarchs as well there on this market. that's a problem of energy market.
Yeah.
I
In
remember.
Moldova, yes, we have clear definitions of what corruption is, and anti-corruption is our main strategic document. Whether it is understood by the public that anti-corruption is a strategic issue for the country, I don't really have an answer to that. Our public opinion surveys in the last few years, usually anti-corruption is pretty high. It's among third or fourth problem named by people. So I think it's pretty high because if you compare it to, let's say, 7-8 years ago, anti-corruption was not usually among the first. As usually it goes salaries, education, something. So anti-corruption is quite high. As far as the politicians, I think that they are pretending that it's not such a big issue, corruption, and it's not a matter of surviving of the country.
So $1 billion disappear overnight and it's not a big deal.
Well, for example, the response of the the head of the national bank to the parliament was that, don't worry, it's not 1 billion, it's only 450 million. Yes. Now
Which
regarding
means
the
how much in the
no,
how much in the from GDP of Moldova?
I cannot tell you right now.
No, but it's enough to make the prices go higher and to the exchange rates to go up and the prices to go up, so it affects
everything around 20%, yes, compared to December. Now regarding your question, I was perhaps not very clear enough, but absolutely the link with the Russian business and politics, that's what I meant by this geopolitics. We have many businesses in Moldova that are run by Russian owners, and even now in the information that is current in the mass media about this 1 billion euro dollars being stolen, there are links with Russian banks. Like it's a sort of scheme, because how it happened? It happens through 3 banks. That they gave credit to some companies, and that those companies closed other credits.
But it's a simple thing. When we cannot believe that it's 28. How much? How old is this guy? Who is suspected? 28, 29, 26 years old guy.
But what's surprising, we also have hot shots in business, especially in IT or very young.
The fact that there is someone at the National Bank
Of course.